Awesome. All right. Well, let's crack on. Let's do our second talk now. Aubrey from PizzaHut Digital is going to talk to us about how it's okay to fail. So, big hand for Aubrey, please.
Am I on? Good. Everyone can hear me. Okay, cool. So this talk is how it's okay to fail. And actually a little bit different from what I envisioned. And that's probably a reflection of our culture and the cultural change that we're going through. So it's not quite what I had in mind, but sort of bear with me. I'll go through why. So I'm probably the best embodiment we have of an SRE at PizzaHut. So I spend a good percentage of my time writing code and microservices, and I spend the rest of it doing DevOps, Terraform, any infrastructure in AWS. So it's about culture, we all know this. I hear this like a million times, like everything I go through, it's about culture, DevOps is culture, DevOps, and no one ever explains to you what that culture actually is and how to do it and what it should look like. So I'm going to try. We are empowered to fail. And what that doesn't mean is that people want us to fail. It doesn't mean that there are frowny faces when I screw up. Someone's still going to look at me from across the table. And what it does mean is it's absolutely accepted that our mistakes and failures and assumptions will yield either a long-term value or immediate insight. So when we look at some of the mistakes that we've made, I remember we put live an experiment on one of our product pages and we forgot to put the price on stuff. And we actually saw that there was an immediate uptick in people buying that stuff. And it was one of those crazy things where we screwed up and we got some really immediate insight from it. And it was a really great thing that actually changed the direction that we were going as a team. No one believes me that we are empowered to fail. Like, it's a good thing, and I'm going to keep going over this point. We have post-mortem environment, and actually somebody brought this up like 1 or 2 DevOps ago and said, how do you do this without turning it into a witch hunt? And the answer really comes back to culture. You are the culture, you are the people that are involved in this. So if you make it into a witch hunt, it will become a witch hunt. When we call a post-mortem, we do it when our customers can't order pizza. That is our metric. If you're on the PizzaHut website and you order pizza and it fails, we will hold a post-mortem the next day and talk about why that happened. And sometimes it's spidey sense. Sometimes it's like I get an inkling that something's slightly off. Sometimes we're looking at our charts and our numbers and we see that Android's slightly converting slightly lower than something else, and it's a case of, okay, so we pushed a feature yesterday, we pushed something else, and we need to look at, did that impact that platform? We have a repository on GitHub, and it's got markdown reports and recordings of almost everything that we've done in those post-mortems. And I guess one of the things, the first thing that I tell anybody who joins the team to do is to read through that repository. And it's a living history of everything that happened on our team and all of the people that were involved and the people that have left the company now and the people that are still there. And it gives you an idea of the players and what happened in the history and everybody that was involved. And I think it's a really good way to propagate that information, because a lot of the times historical stuff gets lost on people, and it's very difficult to figure out a way to pass that through the team. And I think part of DevOps is really permeating information through your team, getting people to pick up new skills and things they don't normally do, and crossing those skill sets over. And our post-mortems actually look like this. So when we sit in a room, a couple of us will go away, and this was when we had particularly bad conversion. I think we lost like quite a few percent. And these guys were sitting there working out what day of the week it was, when it was raining, when it was sunny, when there was football on, everything. You can imagine that we're trying to figure out exactly what it was that caused a lower conversion rate. And then there was another one. I spent most of my time pissing around my hair, but I think actually we've done all the hard work, and this was pretty much the review. But as you can see, we bring the whole team together, and we'll sit in a room, and we'll whiteboard everything, we'll split people into teams, and we'll look at different parts of what we're doing. Was it this thing, was it this? Go and look at GA, go and look at the website, go and look at Android, go and look at iOS. And we'll go put those guys in a room, and we'll figure out which thing was going wrong. Culture, not a cult. So this is Jim Jones, made Jonestown, if we're not funny. This is the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid comes from. This is a guy that created this little cult in the middle of nowhere, and everyone joined him, and he drank poison Kool-Aid and killed everybody. If you've ever seen Circle on Netflix, another good one. The Apple cult of Apple. You're not trying to create a cult. You're trying to create something that's an input from everybody. Yeah, don't do that. The obligation to dissent. Now this is a core value in our team. What we believe is that if you don't think that we're taking the right path, if you think that we should be taking another path, you have an obligation to everybody on our team to stand up and say, I don't think this is right. Staying quiet really is an option. It's an obligation, and we instill this in everybody when they join our team. Now, this guy, like I'm sure some of you know who this is kind of the embodiment of a culture for me. His name's Legion, he's from Red Dwarf, and I'm going to spoil it all for you, I'm really sorry, I felt like such an asshole. When I did this, I thought it was a really good idea, and I thought, shit, people probably haven't seen this before. It turns out, like, later on in the episode, that this is some advanced AI on a space station. Actually, it's made up of, like, everybody on the team. That is your culture. If you think about it for half a second, if you had nobody, there would be no culture. Culture, we can define as environment, attitude, values, behaviors, and beliefs. But what are they? So the surroundings or conditions that we operate in, environment, it should be hospitable. It might involve working from home, a decent chair, a nice desk, a nice environment, cake on my birthday to show people care. I don't want to be shouted down when I have an idea or suppressed it in any way. I want to be able to communicate with my team. So environment is a really big part of this whole culture thing. For example, we work in a WeWork building with a bunch of other startups, and we did that because we wanted to take ourselves out of the enterprise environment, out of the cubicles, away from all the design and all of the committees, and go and do stuff fresh. And we surround ourselves with other startups who are fresh and doing exactly the same thing. A feeling or an opinion about something or someone, or a way of behaving that is caused by this. Attitude. If my attitude is wrong, I'll stop getting feedback. People won't want to work with me anymore. Being wrong sucks, but don't be defensive. People won't even tell you you're wrong. You won't foster the attitude you need for a cohesive team that can share. And the key to DevOps is fluid information propagation. Beliefs, an acceptance that something exists or is true, especially one without proof. Now, our belief is the customer. We know they exist. We assume that they want pizza. We don't always know it. We don't always know what motivates that customer, and so our belief is in the customer, but our understanding is something that is forever growing. The principles that help you to decide what is right and wrong. Values. Things you won't do, things you will do, lines you won't cross. A particular way of acting. Behavior. Essentially, this is don't be an asshole. I am guilty of that in some of my previous roles. I'm reformed. Estrogen. Yeah, it's true. But this is, I used to have a deeply founded belief that everything that I impacted below me was collateral damage. And the people that I worked for could only see the net result of what I was responsible for. And so it didn't really matter how much carnage and chaos I caused or how many people quit because of me. Ultimately, I only saw the end result. That was great. I made no friends. I didn't make a lot of great people. I had a terrible reputation with people. And it's not a good way to work. So basically, don't be an asshole. This is an interesting slide. So recently, we've gone through some changes at PhDV, and we've made some people changes. We made some mistakes. And what this is a redefinition of our culture, our environment, and these are from the people that work on our team. This isn't saying what are our digital enablers, what are our focuses, what are our values, what is our culture. You can find things like work from home up there. What are our values? Don't hesitate to redefine your culture. You can do it at any point. People will feed into it, but you're ultimately responsible for what that is yourselves. Now, this is a very funny story, and it's almost become law on our team. Unfortunately, I can't talk about the actual feature, but I can tell you about the night that it happened. And we had a developer who worked at 1,000,000 miles an hour, an incredibly talented guy. Every now and then, a consequence of working at 1,000,000 miles an hour is that you fall over spectacularly. And so we had this feature going to go live at midnight. It was already released. The trick wasn't released at midnight. And everybody was watching, sitting on Slack for that moment, sort of knew it was going to happen. Rolled over to midnight. Didn't work. And it was quite funny because at the time, our lead architect was sitting there, Aubrey, 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 Aubrey. Every 20 seconds, how are we doing? Is there an update? What's going wrong? It was a lot more like aggressive than that, but it was a very funny story. And so we tell this to everybody who joins the team, and it's in the post-mortems as well. And so you have this little cute thing on Slack at the moment where something goes wrong, you'll get the Aubrey, Aubrey, Aubrey 3 times, and then we'll get called out, and it means you fucked up. Oh, come on. Don't be that guy. That was a lesson. Actually, the better lesson from this was, I think that as a team, because we kind of knew that was going to happen, we probably should have invested a bit more time on that guy and made sure that everything was going to be okay, rather than sort of just letting what was going to happen. We sort of knew it was going to happen, we could spend some more time on it. Oh shoot, sorry. Still learning with these really fun facts. So, methodology. This is always a really interesting one, and when I build teams, I often talk about methodology, and when I take them over, we decided what we're going to go with. I always say to them, methodology is what works for you. Somewhere somebody came up and said, this is a set of ways you're going to work, these are things you're going to do, this represents methodology. But it doesn't mean that that's going to work for every team out there. There's nothing wrong with taking something and bastardizing it because it works for your team. There's a reason in enterprise that you find safe instead of agile, because agile doesn't tend to work in enterprise at scale. Maybe that's because in enterprise you usually find that development goes agile and then every other department tertiary to that, like finance and procurement, aren't empowered to support an agile process, and so you end up with agile. Nonetheless, there's nothing wrong with taking these methodologies and making them your own and finding out what works for you. And this is a timeline of some of the things that we've been through. And I think when I started, we were on the yesterday, today, and any impediments. And I have been through so many teams, and I know when the developers frown and they're like, oh god, I don't want to do start it again. Like they're all saying that it's the same old crap every day. And I usually think about that quite heavily. Is that because we don't see value in it anymore? Do they see the value? Does anybody still see the value, or are we just doing the ceremony for the sake of it? So if you hear that, should you change something? So we switched to using themes. So we would start looking at the things that we were doing that day, the features that we were building, and we would go through those for a while. And then we went extremely lean, and everyone would just sort of like huddle around the board and say, is there anything we're going to call out? Is there anything important happening today? Does anyone make any progress? And that was one thing, so that was really terrible. And now we have like 27 Kanban columns. It's not 27, I swear to God, right? So it's probably more like 12 or 15. It just happened. It comes back to this point. If you need to go through something that I've already gone through, and I've done this a million times, but if you need to go from 3 columns to 15 columns, I'll take that journey with you. Because sometimes you have to go through the pain in order to see the light. No one does whiteboard interviews anymore. So I feel like we have quite a unique hiring process. It's candidate-led. So when you come in and talk to us, we're going to ask you about your story. We're going to ask you what you're passionate about, what you like doing. Most of us are heavily technical, and so if you start talking about, no, we're going to ask you some questions, we're going to ask you about your experiences in there, and you can smell her out. I fully believe that I can smell her out. After 4 months. We're going to ask you if you love pizza, and you can whiteboard if you want to, but it's up to you. What we're looking for is a cultural fit. We're looking for people who love what they do. I don't really care that if you can actually do the technology. I think if you've got exposure to it, we can build you up into something, we can help you get better at it. I'm not looking for an expert, I'm looking for somebody that brings the right fit to the team. A diverse team, but I don't want to create an echo chamber. I want to find people that have a different way of doing something to me. I don't want people with the same opinion, but at the same time, I have to be careful that when we bring people in, they're not going to be the type of people that want to change the world. Remember that we have a very established infrastructure. We don't want people to just come in and say, I've got a better way of doing this, start again, new schedule up, new everything, move it to Azure. We need people who can constructively come in and say, actually, I've had a better experience in this, and this is a more interesting way of doing it, and should we try it? Let's take a spike. We're looking for this in DevOps. This is the unicorn. This is not the unicorn you would find in a polyamorous relationship. This is the SRE. This is the guy that can code 50% of his time, and this is the guy that can do ops 50% of their time. I love the people that can do this. I'm one of the people that do this. I spend my time writing on microservices. I deeply understand our payment service. When something goes wrong when I'm on call, I know what that code looks like. I understand what it does to our service. I know why we're hitting the CPU limits. I know that we went and upgraded the node modules earlier in the day. I deeply understand what we support on the ops side of things. There aren't many of us. For me, this is the true embodiment of DevOps, someone who can do both sides. I'm not going to lie, it's incredibly hard to find anybody that will be able to tell you about NVGRE, VXLANs, or what the Harmony flag does on Node. But they are out there, and these are the type of people that we try and hire. Now, I quite like this slide. My talk sort of began as something like this, and I sort of nixed it, but we all have this number on our team, and it's like a dollar value above your head, and it's how much money you lost for Pizza Hut. And it kind of is like a little bit funny after the fact, but not funny at the time, because it was a bit raw. I remember my first 12, and I'd advertised a new route, BGPRP, into the enterprise network, and I think I'd clashed with something, and then suddenly we can talk to anything on the other side, and 12 orders at Aubrey 12 orders. Yeah, I had to go and roll that back on really quickly. And there are people on our team with hundreds, there are people on our team with thousands. I think I'm in like 2001 now. But it's kind of cute afterwards. Probably not at the time. At the time it's extremely raw, but it's kind of this, it's not a race. You don't want to be that person, but it's kind of cute to know that there are people that have come onto the team and gone straight in there and screwed something up. And I think for us, if you don't have that number, you're probably not working hard enough or fast enough for our team. Everybody has that number. So thank you for listening to my talk. We are actually hiring at the moment. So if you talk to Jack Moore, he will talk to you about recruitment stuff. If you happen to be a unicorn, it'd be really good to talk to us, because we are really looking for you. And thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you very much, Aubrey. Does anybody have any questions for Aubrey? Actually, do you want to take questions, or do you want to do it later? You okay? She's okay? That's all right. Any questions? I should have asked that first, really. Apart from, why have we not got PizzaHut Pizza here tonight? We've got a question there. Sorry, that's a shout, because I'm on lead.
In what format do you keep the post-mortem? You said you do them in Markdown.
Markdown.
But how do you have them? Is there like somebody sitting writing down what?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is have a template, what your template looks like. Ours will contain things like the date and a bunch of preset fields. Some of them are basically what happened, who was affected, so how many customers did we affect, how much money was it, where we got lucky. This is a really, you'll be surprised the where we got lucky field is like really useful, because quite a lot of the time some people are just sitting there and they're like, something feels off, not quite right. Spidey sense is like a really important one, so that where we feel lucky field. So we generally just have this set format, bring the markdown down, rename it something, associate a ticket with Kanban or whatever you're using, and then just write it with the team. So you go room yourselves, use the whiteboards, work through it. Should be a collaborative document, everybody should be involved. One person can take the lead and ownership if they want, and then go and commit that thing to the repo. And then again, it's not much good unless people read it. So obviously everybody who was in that post-mortem, it's all good. For new people on the team and people that don't, you really want to send them through that repository and just get them to read the history, because so many people on our team you will talk to about stuff they weren't involved in that happened 3 months before they joined. And they go, I remember reading like a post-mortem document about that, and it's really great when you hear it, because it's just one of the few places I've seen that been actually effective.
Cool. Anybody else got a question? Do you want to follow on? Go on.
How big are the teams and how big are the post-mortems that end up? Just because we do post-mortems and we have big teams,
Yep.
end up being about 5.
So I think the biggest is like 8 or 9 people. If we do, we have had really big post-mortems, but generally when we have an issue like that, we tend to split people into different areas. I don't think it sort of like it loses value when you've got too many people looking at the same area, so we tend to go and look at different parts, especially when we don't know what it was that we affected or how widely spread it was. So somebody will go and take the lead on GA and start with stats and what we've affected, and other people will start to do platforms, and then yeah, so diligence.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Aubrey? Going once? Going twice? Okay, sold. Aubrey Stearn, thank you very much.